So at the start of this activity you'll have sat back to back with a partner and you'll have tried to define perfectly the line picture you see in front of you so that they can reproduce it on their page as perfectly as possible. Hopefully this will lead to lots of creative solutions between your partner and then as a whole class, and then you might use this picture to prompt the discussion. Well, okay, even if the slope's identical, the line might not be identical, they're in different positions. How can I define those different positions? And then as a class, discussing all the different ideas you've come up with, you'll start hopefully maybe trying to refine which one you think's the most efficient one for defining a line, or the most effective, that really gets to the essence of the key things, key properties. And then your teacher will talk you through the same discussion mathematicians have had, the creative solutions they've come up with, and that discussion about efficiency and effectiveness that has led to the solution that's commonly used internationally at the moment. And you can compare your ideas with it and see if maybe you think they're better in some respects. And then you've got practice time, so practice finding the gradients, the slopes of these lines. The aim is throughout this activity is to be able to do it on paper. Can you find the gradient and y-intercept on paper and therefore the equation of the line? And then the applets are there just to help you. So if I scroll down a bit, there's a gradient applet. From paper I might have decided that the segment of that line, the gradient, looking at my paper, was maybe 3. Okay, so I'm entering a gradient of 3 here, and okay, it's not quite next to it, so I just want to see if I can, by moving that left and right on the slider, can I line it up perfectly over? No, I can't quite. Is it too steep, too flat? Up to you to decide, and how that would affect the gradient. There's also a link here for Internet Explorer if you're using that as your web page, because this will be a blank, so just click on the direct link and you'll have exactly the same applet. Then there's this activity, which is a collection of equations of lines you have to find by entering the gradient here and the y-intercept there. Every time you press on this double-headed icon, it will give you a new question. Just wait for 2 to 10 seconds once you've pressed it for it to generate that. Okay, and then I have to decide what the gradient is. Well, I put the gradient in here. I think that's about -1, and I think the intercept is about -4, and it will tell me, it gives you feedback about the gradient and the intercept. And then you're back to your worksheet where you've got a system of lines to work out. There's 3 lines there you need to work out, another 3 here, and then a final 3. So there are 9 lines in total for you to work out the equations of using gradient and y-intercept. And then you've got the applets to help you check. So the aim is that you can get feedback yourself on your answers. You don't need to wait for the teacher. We'd really like to learn for you to think things through, to experiment, to refine, until you get closer and closer. So on this one you can enter the gradient. Sometimes this X is a bit out of the way, so you just need to put it back in line. And imagine I thought, here's the red dotted line. That's the red dotted line is the one you control throughout, as said here. And if I change that to 2x, maybe I think that will match one of the lines. It doesn't, unfortunately. That doesn't look like the right slope for any of them. Maybe I think the y-intercept's 1. It doesn't either. But if you get it right, you'll get the same message as before, or a similar one. And then the questions get a bit harder, and here you have to enter the whole equation. So it's not so easy now. You have to not just enter the gradient and y-intercept, you have to decide on the whole equation and enter it in yourself in one go. And when you do, you'll see that red line has moved accordingly, -1 and a gradient of 3. And then it gets harder at the bottom here. The last one's the hardest set. You're going to need some fractional gradients, maybe y-intercepts as well, up to you to decide. And the applets are there to help you decide what's happening. Very best of luck.